Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's closing session, our Palooza. Not sure how many people are there live as we let people into the Zoom room. I'll be trying to monitor our slides through my phone here with Pathable and as in person there. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I'm seeing several people join, so we'll give a few seconds as everybody trickles in. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Okay. Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start. So if you're having a very, very interesting conversation about usage statistics, maybe move it to the hallway. All right, this is the closing session and the Palooza, the first inaugural hybrid Charleston conference, Palooza. And thank you everyone who stuck around for this virtually and in person. Can we go ahead and start sharing Sandy's slides? I'm going to introduce myself and then Sandy will introduce herself. And then we're going to launch into a bunch of Poll Everywhere questions. I'm Athena Hoeppner. I'm the Discovery Services Librarian at the University of Central Florida and a frequent attender at Charleston. So let's see if we can get the screen shared. Great, here we are. Sandy, take it away.
Awesome, and you can hear me all right?
Indeed.
Okay, perfect. So yes, I'm Sandy Avila. I am the Science Librarian at the University of Central Florida Libraries. So thank you, Athena, for having me with you here today for our Palooza. And now that we know that we can confirm the slides are being projected there, we can lead into our first slide, which is basically just us again. So thanks for having us here. I'm at home in rainy Orlando, Florida, and Athena's there on site. So thank you all for joining us. We've got about 200 people joining us remotely. So that's great. Or from somewhere, maybe in Charleston in a hotel room. I don't know.
It is chilly here today, so maybe people decided just to stay in their rooms, tucked under a blanket.
With the rain, a little bit cooler here too, so.
Yeah. As you can see, we are using Poll Everywhere, and I was delighted to see that Poll Everywhere was used in several sessions this time. So everyone should be pretty familiar with this by now. You can either go to the web site in the browser or use your messaging service on your phone. So take a moment to get started with that. And just as a fun test question, let's go ahead and move along. And if you need us to back up, just put it in the chat. I'm watching that online. But yeah, it looks like the answers are rolling in. Were there any cute animals this year? I know last year we had several cute animals in the slide decks. This year, I did not see any cute animals. I was very disappointed in our animal content. It was a whole bunch of charts and graphs, but they were good too. Give it just a moment more. Looks like I was not alone. Sadly, we'll have to have that as a suggestion for next year. We need at least one cute animal per slide deck. Okay. Looks like things aren't really shifting. I think everyone seems to have gotten the basic gist of how this will work. And Sandy, do you want to handle the next slide? Talk us through it.
Yes. So this is going to be one you have to do online, not on your phone, because you have to pin where you are located. So where are you from? And if you're, visiting remotely, then, let us know where you are.
Look at the United States turning all green.
Yes.
I know that we had, I think Leah said there were something like 31, 32 countries represented this year. I'm watching for the green pins. Maybe they decided to sleep in or not join us right now. But I'm looking at the slide sideways, so I might not be catching all the details.
We've got a few that are outside, maybe one, well, about three.
So pretty good representation from around the world. Again, this seems to be a pretty consistent. Charleston Conference gets people from everywhere. All right. In the interest of getting through all of our questions, let's go ahead and move to the next one.
Next one is, are you a first-time attendee of the Charleston Conference?
I don't know what the usual ratio is, actually. That would be something interesting to dig through the past year's data. But there's some people don't know what the Charleston Conference is. Welcome to the Charleston Conference for those people. But it looks like a lot of repeat customers. I can't see the ratios. Sandy, what are the percentages?
So right now we have yes, 27%, no, 71%, and nothing for the others here.
So yeah, a lot of repeat attendees, which is good, but even better in a way. I mean, we do want people to come back, but we also want all those new attendees. So this is good. This is great. And there was a new attendee or first-time attendee reception, and several of us went and met some of the new people in person. I don't know if there was an online equivalent. No, not this year. But yeah, thank you to all the new people and to the returning people. Let's go ahead and move on. Sandy, are you able to move us on?
Yeah, it takes
a
couple seconds to respond. Did it go twice?
Sure.
Hold on. Did I skip a question?
Don't know.
No, we didn't. Okay. Bear with me, since we have so many people on, it takes a little bit longer to move to the slide. Okay, so next one, where we've already started to receive responses. If you're returning to Charleston, how many times have you attended over the years? 2 to 5 times? 6 to 10 times? 11 to 20? I think we're about stopping at that point, 11 to 20.
There should be just one response for I am Katina Stotch. Here she is. Thank you for coming.
Yay.
All right. So that's a lot of relatively new attendees. I hope that last year attracted a lot of people to return this year. Nice distribution. Hopefully not too many of us will age out. I'm in the—
You got 7% between 11 and 20 times. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Very cool. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Oh, by the way, if anyone has anything burning they want to say, go ahead and either type it into the chat, which I am sort of keeping an eye on, or just raise your hand and go to the mic. If you have to, tell us why you've been here 30 times, we'd love to hear it.
And our next question here is if you're attending in person or virtual.
So a strong lead for the virtual at 88%. So, and we could tell that whenever the sessions were going on, there were always many more people virtually than in person. And the virtual conversations were strong too. Lots of good questions and comments coming in person, but usually more virtual.
So Athena, we have a question in the chat about how many attendees were here at Charleston Conference this year. Do we have that data yet?
Leah, do you want to? I'm sorry? 500 people in person. And then that would be, if we multiply that by 88, or that's not 88, it would be.
Well, I think they're asking how many attendees overall for Charleston this year.
How many overall for this year, registrants? Okay, so the answer was just shy of 3,000, which is about the same as what we had last year, overall participants. But this time, 500 of us were in person.
Got it. Thank you. Moving on to the next question then.
Yes, absolutely. Right. This ratio of in-person to virtual represents who's attending the Palooza, so it may not represent the split overall. Okay, what is your role or position title? So this is one where you get to type in, and it takes it a little to show us the result after you typed it in. So I'm seeing a lot of collections go by in those titles.
And I'm going back a little bit in the results so we can see, because a ton came through all at the same time.
Sure. Yeah. Acquisitions, some publisher relations folks.
I'm seeing some reference and some liaison librarians.
And then, of course, some library leadership positions. A lot of e-resources. This, I think, is fairly typical mix for Charleston. It's looking relatively normal. I haven't seen anything that surprised me. I'm sure that there's some very humorous answer somewhere buried in this long list. You have to look for it later, I guess. B. There we go. Okay. One of the downsides of doing these free text answers is it takes so long to see them all. And I don't think we want to spend too long, but let's give it just a few more moments and then we'll move to the next question.
You have the president and CEO. So we have some companies and vendors. Everything librarian, that's an answer for you.
Yeah, that makes sense if you're a small shop. All right, I think we should go ahead and move on. And while you do that, I'm going to sort of summarize some comments from the chat about having the hybrid as an option. It seems like the people who have commented really liked having the choice. Okay, next question.
So what social networking events did you experience this year?
Oh, look at all those sad nuns. That sounded like a statement on religion, but it's not. It's wow. I think it's because there were so many people attending virtually, and maybe this means that we need to arrange some fun virtual events for people. This makes me very unhappy, seeing all these people who did no social events. The in-person folks, I think, did several. Hopefully we're seeing some of those now.
Oh, we have one person saying yes to fun virtual events. Maybe we need to do a virtual happy hour or a signature cocktail making, session.
Yeah.
And we have some informal gathering of speakers and attendees, and then one saying too busy working at home. Yes, the multitude of juggling that happens while we're remote can be challenging for sure.
Sandy, you don't know anything about that.
No. My parents are picking up the kids in the carpool right now for me right at the second. So yeah, this I think is a good picture of the problems that everyone's faced during COVID, where you have to sort of juggle your home life, your work life, and if you're doing it all virtually as well, it can be hard to fit everything in. Chair yoga, yeah. Yes, I like that too. All right.
Okay. So now we got some insight from that question. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. What was your favorite session this year? Virtual and in person? This one should have some good answers, I hope. I hope we don't see any nuns. Oh yeah, long arm was so good, so inspiring. I loved both of the sections of it, but the second speaker, and I'm terrible with names, so I've already forgotten it, but I can look it up. Leela Bailey, the representative for the Internet Archive, discussed her sort of philosophy behind her defense of the controlled digital lending that they did for the emergency public library. And it was really impassioned and convincing, but we may be, the choir, but I liked it quite a bit. So what other answers rolled in while I was praising her session.
We had the DEI is not a webinar, I think a few times listed. Digitizing African documents, streaming video conversation. It's about managing streaming. I think that's the same one. Decolonizing, reconstructing. Now they're moving too fast for me to even read.
Sounds like there's a lot of people who really enjoyed the DEI conversations. So that's great. I think it's a wonderful conversation for libraries to have, particularly because there's so much that we maybe can do to support that as an ongoing movement in society, but also help our institutions do something more meaningful and help libraries undo some of the barriers to diversity, equity, and inclusion that are inherent in our catalogs and in our collections that currently exist. Anyway, I won't ramble on too much about that, but
we also had a few mentions to the innovation sessions.
Cool. Think like a civilization. All right, so we're moving on to the hottest buzzword for Charleston 2021. News ground.
Again, fast. And we've got several years to compare this.
CDL, yeah. Transformative, open. Access. I think access always gets some nice prominent placement.
I think transformative appears in a few of the last years as well. We'll get to see that.
Yes. And open, of course.
DEI is in there.
Mm-hmm. Now here in a second, we're going to take a look at how this compares to last year and the buzzwords from last year. Any guesses? Don't type it into the chat, not into poll everywhere if you decide to answer, but any guesses what was the main hot topic for last year? COVID. And I'm really pleased to see that it didn't show up here. So that's cool.
Or pandemic, I saw that pop in already.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at last year's. It looks like transformative, open access, and CDL stayed pretty large along with DEI.
And a couple to mention, Archive Africa showed up in there, DEI,
oh, nice.
And synergy. A few other words that popped up while I was taking note.
Cool.
This to last year. It's taking too long to respond. Hold on.
Give it a second. Face to face. Pivot.
Here is last year. So.
There we go.
Okay.
CDL. Still nice and prominent. COVID. So a lot of the same words, but fortunately, COVID has shrunk in our minds, even though I know there were a lot of sessions where we talked about responding to the changes that were brought about by COVID. Pivot was one of our words this year. And I'm sure that had to do with COVID.
All right. If we compare to 2019, what do we find?
Oh, the blissful pre-COVID years.
But we still have transformative and open.
Yes.
And CDL.
Okay, and let's look way back to the very first Palooza, put together by Aaron Gallagher, trying to mash the two names together. So it was a very small little word cloud. Not very many people attended the first year, I think, but data was on everyone's mind. I think we're still thinking about data a lot, and maybe in a more sophisticated way.
And access there too, which I think is a word that we've seen across all of our more recent years.
Yes.
Okay, next question. Are hybrid events and teaching here to stay? What will hybrid interactions look like in the future?
So look into your crystal balls. Let us know what you see.
Most everyone's saying yes. Many say they hope so, and then some say unfortunately so. No more pathable. Say hopefully for equity reasons. Yes, more accessible.
I think that
or full on in person. Sorry.
No, please, I interrupted. The number of people that attended virtually last year and this year sort of indicates to me that there's certainly an appetite for being able to attend events without having to actually travel. So I'm on the yes side of this question.
Certainly gives folks flexibility, right?
Yes.
Better for climate change. That's an answer. Yeah.
Okay. So it looked like there was more leaning towards the positive side, or agreeing that they will continue than hoping that they won't, or saying that they won't. But I guess the time will tell. Maybe in 5 years, we'll look back and say, oh, those crazy years when we were attending events virtually and missing out all the networking in the hallways and seeing the vendors in person. So we'll find out.
One person put in there, never again waking up at 5:30 in the morning. So it definitely must be, I guess, a West Coaster, unless they're in a different part of the world towards our east. But yes, definitely for hybrid time differences can be a challenge if you would normally travel in to be on the same time zone.
Yes, some people in the room pointed out that they were getting up at 4 a.m. Okay, so let's see what our next questions are. I have to keep in mind that last year I ran out of time for the questions, so I'm going to push forward. Okay, at this point, this question has been in the Palooza slides for a long time. At this point, open access is ... Fill in the blanks.
The first response was dead.
I just watched the session trying to evaluate the usage of big deals now that they're including more and more gold open access in the collections, and whether they're still returning a steady or declining cost per use and return on investment. So the data was a small indication that maybe the value of our big deals is declining a little bit as the content open access, the percentage of open access content increases. But I wonder how that trend will continue. But yeah, still an enigma. 33%.
There's some really great responses here. I want to scroll back a little to say some of them. Still all over the place, not saving libraries money. Anyone is talking about. Necessary. Trending upwards. Here to stay. A hot mess, but there's still hope.
Has anyone, I would have thought that transformative, read and publish, and the new models, have they gotten mentioned? I'm sorry, I did not see.
I'm not sure the new models, but I mean, people are referring to different things. Complicated, a tangled web, improving, but we're not there yet. So to me, it alludes to the challenges and the many aspects that we're still trying to figure out. Evolve.
So yeah, it looks like this, there's still no clear consensus about what we feel about open access and how it's going to continue in the future.
Expensive, underutilized, emerging. And I'm not sure, I don't think we have data from previous years because of these open responses, but I bet if we were able to look at some of them, they would be similar.
Probably. I think that it's always gotten kind of a mixed response. So I think, though, we should go ahead and move on.
Yeah, an important social justice issue. Just to point that one out. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
it sure is, especially when you think about it's not free to publish things or distribute things. So the cost has to be borne somewhere. And are we pushing that to the authors? And then does that make it unequal for who gets to publish? Or are we pushing it to the subscribers and then it's unequal for who gets to read? Of course, you all have thought about that and heard many more eloquent presentations about it. So, yes, here we go. Word cloud version of open access.
couple years back.
Complicated.
Expensive, transformative. That was the word of the year, I think. Critical. Process. Future.
I'll do the negative ones. Confusing. Unsustainable. So, yes, it's still complicated. That hasn't changed. All right, let's look at the next slide. Yes, at this point, big deals are ... Seems like there has been a steady push to really question big deals and make sure that they're giving us the value that we think they should. So this question, I think, is going to not go away.
We've got being killed on the chopping block, very similar responses.
I saw several still necessary going by. An opportunity.
Manipulative. I can't say that word today. Tough on mid-sized libraries.
Being reconsidered. So does anyone have anything that they want to add to their thoughts on any of these recent slides?
We have a gah and we have a meh. Just to point out, I like those.
Well, I have strong opinions about big deals that I'm going to keep to myself right now because this isn't that presentation. So.
Anybody else want to share?
No hands going up in this room.
Nah, that's a hard one to have to answer, you know. Someone put not always a deal. Dinosaurs. Passe.
Oh, yes, maybe. Yes, they might. Someone in the room mentioned it, that they might share my opinion, but my opinion might be kind of unpopular too. So depends on who's listening, I suppose.
Right.
Yes, we have a question.
Well, it's not a question, it's a rant. I would just want to say
Okay, here we
the whole
go.
thing about furry animal, you know, there's a whole thing in biology. My father was a biologist and my brother is, about the furry animal prejudice, which is that it cuts out the ugly animals. My brother's animal was slime mold. You know, if he'd studied birds, everybody would want to help him, but slime mold? And I won't tell you what my father studied, but it was actually unicorns.
I was sure you were going to talk about DOAJ. Okay. He did get me to say DOAJ, so he didn't have to. Well done, sir. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. I think there's a lot of people who are sort of thinking big deals are slowly on their way out. Okay, did your organization drop or unbundle any big deals in 2021?
These are moving quickly, but looks like most folks are saying no. Some unsure. There's still a good fourth of the population here saying that they did.
Yeah, and of the population that's in attendance. Very interesting. So that I think that may be higher percentage than last year when we asked this question, but I don't remember for sure.
We'll have to pull that data next time.
Yeah. That would be very interesting. I know that I think last year we did see, that is in 2021, that let's say fiscal year 2020, 2021, we did see a lot of libraries face budget crunches, more extreme so than in the past. And they maybe had to respond by saying, okay, we need to drop this, and what select journals do we need to keep from it? And of course, with tools like Unsub, maybe they have the data to make those decisions a little bit more data-driven decisions and nuanced understanding of what's going on and what their options are. But this is just speculation. So it looks like it's settled down at 23% yes and 59% no. And some people don't know because we're not all in the collections and acquisition side. So now what would be interesting is if we had publishers respond differently and say, did you have your libraries or consortia start unbundling? Don't know what they would answer. All right, shall we move to the next slide?
Sure. How is your organization dealing with DEI concerns? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh, not well was the first one. Slowly. And some creating associate dean positions. That's great.
It's like she's a precog. Yeah, we're seeing the words appear a few seconds after you announced them.
Well, two of them came up twice, so I'm not sure if it popped up, early on mine. Lots of talking, not much action.
I like that methodically answer.
We have a sigh. New committees, budget allocations for DEI resources. Some strategic planning initiatives. Performatively.
I guess we all learned that the answer is not webinar. So it's good that I haven't seen that come up.
DEI statements being created.
Basic. So it sounds like a lot of people are somewhat underwhelmed with the responses at their institution. Maybe that's an indication that we should be doing a little bit more, digging in a little deeper and doing something. Yes.
Folks need to start hiring and promoting DEI candidates. I've been on several committees. Folks do a lot of talking, getting statements together. It's start to become comfortable with hiring folks.
Yeah, that whole, are they a good fit thing?
I'm Darrell Gunter of Gunter Media Group. Longtime publishing executive.
Hi, Darrell.
Sandy.
Hi, Sandy. When I heard my name, I was like, oh, who's that? Oh, it's Sandy.
Yes, I mean, I think what you're saying, Darrell, is you're seeing this also here on the responses, that not just creating checkbox, not just making the strategic plans, but hiring actual people out of it. I'm not sure if anybody put that down yet. There's associate dean positions or positions being created for different types of task force, but are we actually getting diversity candidates hired? Training, trying to get beyond lip service. Oh, this one's a tough one. Pretending it doesn't exist.
Yes. So this may be kind of a more of a conversation than we can have right now, but I'm curious how many people are from states or other municipalities or any governmental organizations that are trying to suppress any conversations around DEI and limiting the references to critical race theory and really trying to silence some types of conversations. I know that there's been a number of states that are facing that sort of thing. Florida.
Yes, I was going to say, we're in the challenging one of those states.
Yes.
Unfortunately. So lots of different varied answers, of course. We're improving. That might be a good one to end this on.
Yeah, I think we should probably go ahead and move on. Maybe we have some happier, less troubling questions.
I think we're getting close to being done. We have, I think, maybe 3 or 4 left. So we might want to ask more people to provide some responses.
Yeah.
As we're concluding with Charleston Conference 2021 and we say goodbye to this year, does anybody have any advice closing out the session? See you in person next year in person. Always
Virtual
in person.
If there were a way to supply virtual coffee, I would be on it all the time. Heather in the room has a comment.
I just want to say that we did have some bumps in the road, but I think overall this was amazing. And if anyone had said to us last year, well, one, we would have been depressed to know we're going to be still in the pandemic this year. But if anyone had said, hey, we're going to be able to have 500 people here and 2,500 people online, we would have been like, wow, yes. And like, this is the first one I've been in. This is going to be looked to as a model, I think, moving forward. And I hope we can gather feedback and learn from it, because I don't think it's going away either. And I can't wait to see what happens next.
And we have another comment in the room, and then I'll read one from the chat.
Darrell Gunter, I just want to thank the Charleston Conference Group, Katina and her team for hanging in there. And I said this yesterday, I've been saying it all day. The industry must support the industry. This is such an important strategic conference. So bravo, Katina and Leah.
Yes. I can say that there was weeks and months of planning that went in to making the conference happen. And it was one unlike any that we've had in the past. So definitely faced new challenges and rose to them. The one comment that I see, there's clap, 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 and all sorts of other comments in here in support of kudos to the organizers and so forth. The one is a better tech help when doing in-person and virtual sessions. And I think that we all learned a lot. I think the first few sessions had most of the bumps, and it got a little bit smoother as we went on through the conference. I think if we did this again, we would start from a place where we could do better from the beginning. So I agree that more tech support definitely helped us as we addressed the tech issues that came up. And someone asked, will recordings of the sessions be made available to attendees? And there's a hearty nodding going on from Leah. It may take longer than expected, but it will get there. So yes. So for those of you that had to attend to work because you were virtual and couldn't be here in person and couldn't get away from work, or if there were more than one session that you wanted to attend at a time, you can go and see the recordings and catch them. There were a lot of things that I wanted to see and I just couldn't get to all of them. So I'm looking forward to those recordings. And once they are online, they will be up for a year. No excuses. Katina is going to hold you to this. Okay.
Next slide. Will you be?
Oh, wait, there's a comment in the room. I apologize. I know you can't hear it via the mic. I'm going to run the mic over to you.
I think it would be great to distribute the list of the programs or sessions that were cited as the best, to send that out to people so that they can really get motivated to go back to the tapes. Because I know that's hard to do after we get back home.
That's an interesting idea. Okay, I'm running back to the podium. Go ahead to the next question.
Okay. Next question is, will you be implementing any programs or adjusting existing programs at your library organization based on what you've learned here this year?
So how influential was this conference on what you're going to do? And I'm not seeing any answers rolling in. So is something wrong?
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I'd have to check off the slides in order to let you know for sure. So
Oh.
let's skip this one. 'Cause I'll have
Okay,
to-
so I hear that it is showing up. It is showing up for people, just not yet in this room on the projected screens.
Okay. It says total results are 133, but it's just not showing on here.
Do you see anything, Leah? Okay.
Up to 135.
Yeah, it says total responses, but it's not showing what they were. So I guess we can just guess.
Oh, click on response, somebody said. Let me, no, it's still not working.
So I'm going to guess that 135 of those are yes, that everyone's going to do stuff. And there were 2 maybes. Yeah, and 1 no. Oh, well, it keeps changing. So yeah, I get. Let's see if we can go to the next slide. And I don't know if we can come back to this one and see if it refreshes.
Looks like it's not turned on because it's not asking for responses. It might be something on the back end.
Okay.
If Leah has a poll everywhere open on site, she might be able to tell us after.
Okay. All right. Any ideas for the theme for next year? This year's theme was on the road again. And here we are, many of us.
Rain.
So what about next year? Oh my. Rain, mold. Oh my.
That's probably slime mold, but I bet.
Yes.
You've got
Service.
services, DEI, inclusion. I saw together popping up, collaboration.
Yeah,
Justice.
open together.
Working.
Yeah, the whole diagonal display that it does sometimes is really unreadable. They should drop that one. Yeah, it looks like DEI, inclusion, collaboration are really getting standout responses. And I think open together is getting there. There's way more responses in there than I could read from where I'm standing.
Justice is pointing or popping out at me. Equity, collaborations.
Phoenix. You could get some nice drawings for a phoenix. Okay. Does anyone want to stand up or comment in chat why they thought of a theme and why it would be a good one for the Charleston conference next year? See no hands, no comments. Let's move to the next slide. So, what will be the hottest topic for 2022 at Charleston? DEI is taking the lead again.
CDL is popping again.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Couldn't quite hear you.
Oh no, I was going to say CDL is popping up there again.
Oh, yes. You know, we have an organization on campus, the Center for Distributed Learning, and it always takes me a moment to do that mental switch for controlled digital lending.
We've got budgets, pandemic, copyright,
Climate change.
legislation,
So it looks like a lot of them are sort of evenly weighted. So quite a few ideas that are sort of a few people are thinking of, and DEI and CDL are really standing out as the large concepts. And I am 100% sure that there will be sessions about those two topics next year. And maybe we'll have some court cases, rulings that we can hear about. And some people are nodding yes, and other people are shaking their head no, that's too soon. But I'm sure the long arm of the law session will be very good next year and talk about CDL again, and probably other things too. Cats.
or cats in
Furry
slides.
animals. And important animals that don't have fur. Okay, so any other thoughts about that? Anyone want to say anything in person, online? More pets. Okay, here we have someone at the mic.
Well,
Bea.
I was just going to say, since long arm of the law was mentioned as one of the favorites, I think a clear front runner in the favorite session of the year, we ran out of time at the end of the long arm of the law session this year. But I did want to announce, for those of you who attended in years past, many of you know Bill Hannay was one of our longtime presenters who we tragically lost in 2020. So we are going to create a memorial for him of the Bill Hannay Memorial Webinar Series. So we're going to do a series of webinars on legal topics, legal issues, similar to the long arm of the law, and continue that throughout the year in honor of Bill. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that's coming. Look for a press release. We're really, really happy and excited about this. So thank you.
I hope that it always includes someone singing one of his songs. Okay, so I think we have maybe one or two more questions. Let's go ahead and move through.
I think
and then
that's
we
it, actually.
That was the last one. Okay.
Yeah, we did this a little faster than last year.
Yeah, I was so nervous about running out of time that I kept saying, Sandy, we need to cut slides. We will run out of time. But this time we had extra time. So if there are any things that people would like to ask or say, this is a time you can do it. We have people who know things in the room. Not me. I'm just standing here in front of a mic. So we have someone approaching the mic. Please do introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Stephen Rentut from Coherent Digital. I wanted just to say this session for me is one of the most interesting. And I know that, what have we got here? 20 people or so? So all of the physical attendees are all on their flights on the way home. I was wondering if maybe you could offer it at the beginning as well as at the end. And that way, I think you might actually show people how good and how fun it is. You've got a number of topics up there which are really significant. When you ask a question like how many people have actually changed their big deal strategy, that's a really interesting question, but the sample here is small. If you ask that at the beginning, and you can even do deltas, you could be, have we changed anybody's mind? So a suggestion. Thank you.
That is a great suggestion. And we have about 218 people still joining us online. So to add to the 20 people there in person.
Someone has pointed out that is more than we usually have physically attend, but it is a very interesting suggestion. And I'm sure that I'm sure been noted down. So John, will you please introduce yourself?
I'm John Dove. I don't know if any of you remember the Lollapalooza from 2 years ago, but Stephen Rentut got up and talked about what are the objectives from the principal presentation at Charleston that year. And it was really insightful. I found that over the last 2 years telling people about this. And so it was just 2 slides and it was really helpful. And if you think I'm done with slime molds, let me just tell you that NPR did a contest where they brought up all these different animals and they had really important celebrities defending one animal or another as to what was the most intelligent animal. And the final was between crows and slime mold, and slime mold won.
All right. So next time I want to seem smart, I will refer to myself as a slime mold and say, yes, as a slime mold, I think that this was a great conference, and I really appreciate you all staying till the last and being part of this session, sharing your ideas, and thank you for the kind words about it, about the Palooza, and also a shout out to Erin Gallagher, who was the first person who did the Paloozas for the Charleston conference, and we're still plagiarizing from her questions. So,
Yes. Thank you,
do
Erin.
you have any final comments, Leah or Katina? I can bring your mic.
Thank you all for being here, and see you next year. And maybe we'll do a Charleston in between. If you have any ideas about doing an in between conference, I'd love to hear your ideas.
And as they say in Zoom meetings, I'm going to give you the next 10 minutes back.